Okay, so it's been raining on and off, so I want to try to get out of here quickly. Ugh. I wanted to make another quick little update here. So I've got this grape in the ground here that I put in just a couple months ago, and it had some leaves on it, but it pretty quickly went dormant given the weather that we're having right now. And I put it in the ground right here, and since then I've moved my my archway here. My idea here is that I'm going to try to grow it up this guy. I might add some more horizontal supports for it to kind of be able to grab onto. Maybe I could strap it on with some string or something to kind of hold it up, just have it grow up. Now, there's a lot of guys that I've seen online that say that when you get these guys first in the ground, you want to trim them down real small. And I don't think I'm going to do that. Maybe it's just because of my inexperience. I've never grown a grape before. But I don't want to cut this guy too back until I know he's alive. And I'm not going to know he's alive until spring. And you're not, as far as I know, you're not supposed to trim these guys once you get into spring, because then you got the sap flowing. You got lots of that bark just kind of peels off like the papery outside from the older growth. It's really interesting how that works. But yeah, I'm gonna have this guy kind of grow up the side here, and I want to put a second one in right over here. I ordered it already. I might have to email them to see if they can't ship it sooner, because on the website they don't ship to where I live until like much later in the year, like almost well into spring. So I'm going to email them and be like, hey, can you send it a little sooner? I'm going to put it there. I'm going to have to trim this guy back a little bit so I can get some more sunlight for that spot. But once it gets, about yay high, I shouldn't have to worry about that. And then I'm just going to have them both kind of growing up the sides. I'll have a nice little shaded spot here. I'm thinking until they get big, I might actually try. So there are people that like growing tomatoes vertically, and I think that would be really cool, but I don't want to do it here. I'm going to do it over there. I'm going to take you over there in a minute. But I'm thinking I might try doing beans and peas here. I might just put them in and then drop some strings down for them to grow up, because I don't have one of those trellising tools. It's like a pole with a circle on it. I might try to get one before spring, but if I can't, I'm going to try to grow them here. And then, there's my garlic. Not doing the hottest, but they're alive. Over here, I'm slowly adding in more and more. I'm almost finished on this side. And just to give you guys some advice, if you're wanting to try this, I know it's pretty common nowadays. There's probably a lot of resources online already that talk about this, but the easiest way to get chips down is just put them on straight as soon as you get them. You can let them break down. This stuff here broke down. It's been 4 to 6 months now since I got it. The stuff over there where the strawberries are, I put down fresh, and they're doing just fine. Haven't had any issues with them. But they say usually you want to let it break down first a little bit. But I also put this cardboard down. So in my profession, I get access to a lot of fresh cardboard that's not painted. It's not there's a little bit of printing on it, but it's just basic ink. It's not like that glossy surface they put on like a big screen TV box. And then I just put it down, put the wood chips on top of it, and it just breaks down. Like pretty much all the cardboard's gone in this first section that I already did. It's all broken down. And so it's like a nice first layer barrier to keep weeds from coming through. And then the wood chips break down on top, worms come up from the ground. It works really well so far from what I've seen. But a recommendation for this cardboard, if you can get your hands on it, it's probably going to have lots of tape and other stickers and stuff on it. If you leave it out wet, if you hose it down, then if you hose it down real good and give it a day, the stickers, the tape, all that stuff, it just comes right off. It just breaks right off. It peels off completely. So it's a really smart way to get that stuff off, so you're not having to fight it for like 10, 15 minutes. I've had to do that in the past, and it's not fun. But I'm thinking right here, I'm going to build a vertical trellis. Hopefully I get this out a little bit further, but I want to do a 10-foot long trellis right here with, like, I don't know, 2x4s or 2x6s. I'm going to put a little, it's not going to be a raised garden bed. It's going to be kind of in the ground here at the same level as the wood chips. And then on each side I'm going to have posts so that above I've got strings that come down, and it'll be up against this guy, so it'll get all the sun, the radiant heat from the sun off the brick, as well as, you know, this is a pretty sunny open spot, so it's going to get all the sunlight from that section. And then next fall or summer maybe, I'm going to put in between them garlic. There's a YouTuber that did this. I thought it was a really smart idea. In between the tomatoes, because they're grown vertically, you can grow them really close together. In between them, I'm going to put garlics. That's going to help deter pests, and it's a nice little space saver. But yeah, that's what I'm going to do there. Right here, I'm going to put another row of strawberries. So let's see if I remember. So these 2 rows here are Jefferson Reds. And then I've got this row here, which is, it's a newer variety called Delise. I still got the tag right here. Delise. It's a newer variety. It's a day neutral or everbearing, whichever you want to call it. They're the same. Those 2 terms are pretty much identical to me. But it's been doing really well. It doesn't like so much heavy rain. Like some of these leaves, they're kind of rotting as they're green. It's a little too much rain for them in this climate. But other than that, they do really well. Those guys are completely unaffected by it, from what I can tell. But these guys, they struggle a little bit in the winter from the rain, not from the cold. But they survive well enough that it's not really an issue. You can see, like I said, this is the first section I put these wood chips in. There's a little bit of stuff coming through, a little bit of grass here, because this area here is a little bit thinner. So around the plants, I tried to keep it real thin. And then you can see it's just dirt right in the middle here. Once things warm up and the leaves get a little bit taller, I'm going to cover in that area a little bit more. But I only have to weed like a little bit here and there. And I think the virtue of using this over any type of fabrics is that, you know, it's going to be weakest at the start because things are going to have a lot of energy and be trying to fight to push through. But, you know, I get a little bit of grass here and there in some of these thin spots, like right here. Oh no, that's old stuff that I just left on top. It dies and it kind of breaks back down into the ground. But I like how you have to fight weeds initially. You do. It's not, you know, a miracle cure all for weeds, but the longer that it stays there, the longer you keep layering more on over the years, and the less stuff from underneath from the beginning that can make it through, the weaker it gets, and then it dies out. It can't do it anymore. Like these are a couple guys that I pulled out recently. This is the only part that was above the soil. I could just push the weeds back, you pop it out, all that stem came out with it. It's not going to be able to push back through. This one's probably going to die now. So all that stuff there, you just put a little bit of cardboard on top, layer it down. I don't want to do it against the side of the building, so I'm leaving a bit of a gap, but I'm going to come through, try to kill all this stuff at some point, and then put some wildflower mixes in, because I don't like any of this stuff here that's growing here. But if you compare this type of a situation to some sort of fabric that you put down, whether it's plastic or not, it doesn't matter, you're going to get a lot less stuff coming through initially. But the longer it sits there, the weaker it becomes, and the more weeds you get coming through every single year. It's like it's the reverse effect. Instead of having a lot initially and it going down over time, it's the opposite. You get most of it gets pushed down, but then as the years go on, it builds up, especially as that fabric gets a layer of broken down material on top of it. It creates its own soil level, essentially. I've seen that all over the place. Like, you put it down initially, you pop a couple holes for plants to grow in, but then over the years it builds a layer of, you know, you probably just call it grime, and dirt on top of it over the years until stuff starts just growing right on top of it. Defeats the purpose of the fabric. You got to try to tear it all out, and that's a pain in the butt too, because if you've got weeds coming through it, you've got roots digging through it either from the bottom or from the top, and then you're fighting trying to tear the fabric out the same way you'd be fighting to tear out blackberries. So I like this process a lot better. And on the subject of blackberries, I'll come over here and show you my blackberries that I got growing while I talk. I've had this conversation with a lot of people before. Blackberries don't really respond to pesticides or herbicides or whatever you want to use because of their root system. They're super strong, super deep roots, and they grow by, they call them rhizomes. So it's the surface level root network. Raspberries do this too, and they become like this massive woody bulb in the ground that they just keeps bringing new shoots out from. This is a native. It's not as aggressive as the weed, quote unquote, that grows around here on the West Coast. That's the Himalayan blackberry, and it's not native. It's really aggressive. But for a while, before we lived here, we lived in an area where the only thing that I could grow was stuff in pots. I had these little itty bitty pots. I can actually show you what the size of them. They're like 2.5 gallon. And these pots, they were big enough for my strawberries, and I had some of this other stuff growing in it. They weren't doing super hot, but they were surviving. So this thimbleberry, which is a type of raspberry, and this blackberry, they were surviving, but they weren't, they were doing not the best. They were surviving, but they were not thriving. And the entire area was covered in Himalayan blackberries. Well, what do you do to keep them from overtaking everything that you have there? Well, a lot of people will mow them down, and that's great. A lot of people will try to poison it, and it kills everything else in the area, which isn't great. But the thing that I found that's best to do, which kind of comes along the lines of mowing. So when people would mow it, what they'll do is they'll come through and they'll mow it like once a month type of a situation, or if they have a lot of land, they'll do it like once every 6 months, and it just kind of spreads it around. It doesn't actually like kill it off. So these red raspberries grow kind of like the Himalayan blackberries. And I'm sorry, it's raining. It's probably going to be pretty loud in the video. I'll try to wrap this up as quick as I can. But what the best thing for you to do when it comes to Himalayan blackberries is to just chop them. If you can come through once a week and just you chop down all the big ones, what happens is it'll immediately burn all its energy trying to shoot out new stems. But within a week's time frame, those stems will be so weak and so soft. They'll be softer than these raspberries, because these raspberries got thorns on them. I'm sorry, guys. This rain is messing with my phone here. I'll try to be quick here. The thorns on these guys are small and they're weak, and sometimes they'll get me, but they don't really bother me all that much. When you have a fresh Himalayan blackberry stem, they're softer than this. I can grab them without gloves and just yank them straight out of the ground. And each time you do that, it has to burn more energy and more energy and more energy trying to send up new shoots, and it doesn't have the time to absorb more sunlight and store more energy. So each time it comes up, it gets weaker and weaker. It'll start with something like this, then it'll become something like this, and then it'll become something like this, and then they'll be eventually smaller than these scragglers here on this native guy. These tiny itty bitty scragglers. And it'll take them a long time to build up the same type of energy to make the large stems until they're pretty much just dead. Anyways, that's just my 2 cents about blackberries and how to kind of manage them. But it's kind of the same thing when it comes to just these general weeds. Like some of the stuff is just moss, and I don't care about the moss. Just leave it there. If anything, it'll probably help the wood break down faster. Okay, sorry again. The rain is messing with the touchscreen on my phone. I gotta get out of here. But that's just what I wanted to talk about. And sorry if it took too long to kind of get across. I like to ramble. But that's what I like, really like about these wood chips. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys have a good new year. Try to stay warm and dry, and keep planning and keep getting ready for the spring, because it'll be here before you know it. And we're going to have a lot of fun here, and I can't wait to show you guys more of it.